Hi, I'm Penny Hall, and I had an experience not too long ago that literally changed me completely all the way to my core. And I want to share that experience with you because it's radically changed the way I'm living my life. And I'm hoping that by sharing my story, that perhaps it will inspire you to make some changes in your own life. Several months ago, I experienced another eye surgery. For those of you who know me, I've been through multiple ones. And I've always been able to bounce back from those. It's never been something that took me down for very long. They always seem to coincide, though, with all of my efforts to earn money and move forward in my network marketing business. But this particular time, that was what I was doing. I was ready to get back. I'd had an eye surgery that I was recovering from. I had a whole bunch of new tools. It radically changed my life, that particular one, because everything I used to do, I couldn't do the same old way anymore. And it caused me to be willing to use some tools because I didn't want to have a future of blindness where I sat in the dark alone in a room. That was the models that I had from family members that were blind, and I didn't want to do that. So that sort of made me stir inside, because always before I was kind of in a state of denial. I would have a change and go, oh, I'm fine. I can keep up. I can keep doing this. This is fine. This is what I'm left with. This is what we'll do. Even though I'd had periods where they took my driver's license, I was isolated. I mean, I was just Miss Strong, right? So it was really interesting. All of a sudden in one day I had, with unbeknownst to each other, the counselors in blind and low vision services, the counselor and the therapist, both, one after the other, called me on the same day. I mean, literally, I was speaking to the counselor. She was asking how things were. I told her, had this lovely conversation about how everything's great. I'm doing good. I'm using this and using that. And then I hung up. And the phone rang again, and it was the therapist asking the same thing. And again, I was giving the same story. And then when I hung up, I started feeling so angry. The anger came from so deep inside me. It was just unbelievable and uncontrollable. I began to cry. I cried for all weekend. This was on a Friday, and I cried all weekend uncontrollably. And I called the counselor on Monday, and of course she's out of the office and can't get the response that I wanted. But I told her, I said, I think I have a problem, and I think I need some help. And I had a feeling it was tied, to my eyes. So she recommended that I face the situation by getting in touch with the Association for the Blind, the National Federation of the Blind. She wanted me to do quite a few things that were very much out of my comfort zone and that I didn't want to face. I mean, it was really, really hard for me. But the one thing that surprised me the most was the day that she decided that it would be a good idea to recommend that I learn to use a white cane. Now, I really didn't want to accept that I had any form of blindness in my life. And so to actually take and accept such an iconic symbol of blindness was not an easy chore for me. So I went ahead and said, okay, my pain is so great. My fear of my future is so great. I'd been experiencing changes in myself as I was working through the experiences of blindness and becoming an entrepreneur and working through a lot of things internally. And I knew if I was to have the life I wanted and keep working my business, I had to be willing to learn new things and do things differently. And if I really wanted to travel, if I really wanted to do things, I really needed to allow myself to listen to what these people who were experts were telling me and do something different. So I was willing to get training using a white cane. Well, before I could start that, I had the opportunity to go to our convention for my network marketing business. And I was to receive an award for some achievement that I had reached in rank that year. And the first experience of being out in an extremely difficult situation was to receive my award in my teams group, which was in a very dark location. It was a glow party in this big place, and it had multiple levels, and the stage was brightly lit, but everything else was dark because everybody's wearing these white things to reflect the light and so forth. And so I was having a really hard time because I couldn't see very well, couldn't see where my feet were. I couldn't see a lot of stuff. So long story short, I actually tripped because I couldn't see that the floor changed in level. And so that was really hard for me. It was really difficult. Fortunately, I caught myself on the drapes and didn't fall, but it was a challenge. And then when I went to receive my award in front of close to 30,000 people in the sports arena, I was taken through this long, dark area where we snaked and waited in line. And then I went on stage because it's a sports arena. So everyone's looking down. All the seats are going up and the stage is down below. And it was glass with this white paint in the center. The lights were really bright on it. So I'm trying to walk across this, and I get across, and I made it across. It was not easy, but I got there. I'm really nervous, really stressed. And instead of them letting me go back the same way so I would know the door I came in and where I was and I was oriented properly, they made me go out a different door, which meant I had to walk up an aisle all the way to the top, and I came out on a completely different street than the one that I had gone in the building in. And even though I'd been to convention before and kind of had my bearings, I couldn't read things and see things. And I was totally, disoriented. So I went to ask for directions, and the woman that I was asking directions from didn't understand that I couldn't see very well, even though I told her I don't see very well. Can you direct me back to the Salt Palace? And she was saying, it's right over there. You go right over there. And I'm like, oh, I don't know, where's the door? How do I get there? So it was really, really challenging for me. Because of that experience, understanding that my vision had definitely changed, I was willing, even more so, to dive into learning to use this new tool, this cane, because the cane not only helps you navigate uneven sidewalks and things like that, obstacles that are in your way, but it also lets other people know, I don't see as well as you do, and they're a little bit more conscious of your need for assistance, even though I'm the kind of person that has never been really good at accepting assistance. But I decided to go through this. So I had several different experiences with the cane, but there was one in particular that caused me to be so aware of how I had lived my life and where I was at that moment. And I want to share that experience with you because it was one of the most life-changing things that has ever happened to me. We were using my cane. I was receiving training in my hometown. Now, I live in a very small town in rural Montana, about 800 people. And I've been living here for a number of years. So it's very familiar with downtown because we only have about, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 blocks. It's not very much. And I've been up and down those streets many, 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 many times. So I'm walking along. The therapist is training me this time with blindfolds on. So I cannot see. I am blindfolded, right? So I'm walking along and I'm trying to do everything I'm supposed to do. Now, this looks like just a simple little cane. It's no big deal. Well, it's not that simple to use it properly. You have to learn how to hold it. You have to learn how to get it to sweep the way in front of one foot and you move the other. Well, I'm not coordinated. That was hard. It's hard to learn to do this thing. It's hard to listen for things instead of using your eyes when you've always used your eyes, trying to get other clues, listen to traffic, listen to people around you, listen to sounds, feel the way that the pavement feels, and so forth and so on. So it's a lot more difficult than you think. But I'm walking along and I hear this voice behind me. And my therapist says, "Penny, how long have you been holding your head down?" Now, I am totally blindfolded. I can't see a thing. But I'm walking along looking at my feet. I'd been doing that for years because I had fallen so many times from my challenges with my eyesight. I would not look ahead or look at anything around me. I was constantly looking at my feet to make sure I didn't fall. So I raise my head up and I proceed, and I'm taking this and I'm barely moving it because you're supposed to sweep wide so that the path is open for you to go through. And I was holding it in because I could hear people. I knew I was approaching the bar and I didn't want to hurt anybody or hit anybody. And my therapist says, "Penny, stop." And she comes up behind me and she takes my arms and she takes the cane. She says, "Hold your head up high. This," and she took this cane in my arms and she swept wide in front of me, way out in front, way wide. And she said, "This is your space. Take up all your space. Everyone will adjust." Well, in that moment, I realized just how I'd been living my life. I was always living my life with my head down. I was always living my life pulled in. I was always afraid to take up my space in the world. I was afraid I'd bother somebody or hurt somebody, or somebody would have to move over, or I would hurt somebody's feelings. I was afraid I was too powerful if I were to be myself, that I would ruffle too many feathers. So I learned to hide. And my eyesight and the challenges I had with it helped me hide even more, especially the period of time when I couldn't drive at all and I was isolated on a ranch out in the country, and I was afraid to ask for help and ask anybody to take me anywhere or do anything. So I stayed at home. I was isolated, totally and totally isolated. I didn't know how to live life any differently. So that experience has really shaped the changes that I've been making in myself. I became very willing to face all of my fears. I didn't care what they were. The ironic thing is, the biggest fear I faced was going just a short time after that to a training for the blind, where I learned a lot of things and a lot of tools to help me function no matter what happens to me in the future. But I had to be willing to take the time out of my world that I had created that was about the same and begin to make some radical changes and radical shifts in the way I did things. So what was interesting about that experience is that as I was at that training, because I was there for a month, I stayed there. It was on a college campus. There were other people there. The people that trained us were also blind and had been through the program. And we were working with each other. But the woman who was there, away from her life that she had so gotten so comfortable in, when I got out of that, and here I was with a lot of other people who had the same concerns and had the same issues and were going through the same things, one of the first things that they made me do was not help anybody else. I couldn't help anybody with their cane, even though I might see a little bit better than they could. I wasn't allowed to help in the kitchen. I wasn't allowed to do anything but focus on me, and that was hard. But I decided to dig in and really get the tools that I needed, because I really wanted to be able to grow my business further. I wanted my income to get better. I wanted a future that was free, that was joyful, that was fun. I wanted a different kind of life. So I began to openly share all of my own struggles and stresses, and at the same time, I found myself fearful. I mean, every morning I would get myself ready to go out my little door and face the world. And in my quiet time, I really worked to pump myself up, to say, you can do this. This is going to be okay. I would really get myself in a good frame of mind. Okay, we're going to do this. This is going to be fine. And I would open the door and I would start to cry. It was so hard to do all of those things, to face so many things. And then I'd get down to the dining room and somebody would say something, I don't even know, but I would just start laughing at myself and share some stupid thing that had happened to me the day before with, my cane training was all done with blindfolds, and it was really hard because I'm directionally challenged in normal times. I don't know which is north, south, east, and west. Trust me, I don't know that. And to have to figure that out when you're blindfolded, give me a break. So I would have multiple meltdowns. And so by sharing my own journey and then laughing about it and making fun of myself, it put my peers at ease. And I didn't realize it until the end of my journey there, that I was becoming known for my laughter. People wanted my laugh for a ringtone on their phone. They wanted my laugh for an alarm clock. I mean, I was just so surprised. I knew people would recognize me and say, oh, there's Penny, or, oh, Penny's in the building. But I was laughing so hard and out so loud that people said they could hear me all the way down the hall and even up on the third floor. I mean, it was just, I was so surprised. But I was being myself and focusing on me and doing what was right for me. So that was a very touching experience for me. I mean, they even voted me Student of the Year, which was really deeply touching. And I did record my laugh and give it to them as a gift at the end of that time. But the interesting thing that happened to me at the end of that, I had been taking all my training with blindfold on, right? And so one of the last few days, I went for a walk early in the morning by myself on the campus. And I hadn't explored it very much without blindfolds. And of course, we were fined if we didn't have this thing with us 24/7. So I had my cane with me, and I was walking along. And what struck me about it was I was very relaxed, and it was one of the most beautiful mornings I'd seen in a long time. I could hear all the birds, and I could hear the stillness other than that. And I was looking ahead. I could see the lights that were changing in the colors as the sun was coming up over the horizon. And I could, as I was walking down steps for the first time, my cane had become an extension of my arm. And I noticed I wasn't looking down at my feet. I was looking up at the sky. I was looking around me at the beautiful things, the trees, the plants, the shrines on the campus, the people moving around. I wasn't looking at my feet anymore. I wasn't tight and fearful anymore. I wasn't held in. I was relaxed and I was open, and I was looking forward to my future. So that changed the trajectory of my life. And I've come back and made some major changes to how I'm moving through my life, my relationship with myself, with my business partners. And I'm doing everything I can to stop hiding, to be honest with who you and everyone else around me as to who I am and the struggles I'm having. And I'm on this journey to give myself the total freedom I've always wanted, the freedom to be myself, the freedom to enjoy prosperity, the freedom to enjoy doing whatever I want, go wherever I want, do whatever I want, to let go of all my limitations and to move forward. And so I hope that you will give yourself that gift of the same thing. Look, it's not easy. All those habits we developed them over time. That habit of looking down at my feet, I developed that over a number of years, 18, 19 years, 20 years. The habit of holding in and not taking up my space in the world, afraid I'm going to bother other people. Honey, that is one I've had my whole life. I was always afraid to speak up and be me. And so I'm not doing that anymore. That's not my future. My past is not my future. I am using every tool that I need to support me. And that includes affirmations. That includes loving myself. That includes no longer judging myself harshly, no longer beating myself up, no longer holding back, no longer trying to be perfect, no longer trying to do everything on my own. I'm reaching out to people for support and help. I'm asking for help when I need it. I am doing everything I can to live the life of freedom and living my life full out, taking up my entire space in the world, knowing that if I just do that, I am sure to live a life of freedom and joy. I hope you guys will join me. You're going to be seeing some changes in me this year, so look out. Love you guys. Have a great day. Bye.